Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:06 on O'Connor and Company this Tuesday morning. We're flying along here. Super busy stuff as we sort of do the postmortem on the now deceased so-called border bill that was really a Ukraine funding bill and an amnesty, well, eventually amnesty bill. It's dead, and we're happy about that. At 6:35, Bethany Mandel will give us her take on the current state of affairs in Montgomery County Public Schools, as they are now without a superintendent. 7:05, Laura Hanford, a Virginia mom who is supporting Sage's Law, making its way through Richmond yet again. 7:35, Mark Pauletta on Clarence Thomas, and how every Black History Month curriculum out there right now isn't really including Clarence Thomas. It's disgusting. 8:05, Tom Homan on the border. And at 8:35, Governor Scott Walker will round things out. I am Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock.
Good morning.
Good morning, Julie. So we haven't really said anything about it, but I'm actually on I'm on assignment right now.
Yeah, maybe that might explain my good morning, Larry.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've been kind of. I don't know why you're not supportive of me. This people haven't been noticing this, but this week there are two caucuses. There is the Nevada caucus for the Republican presidential primary nomination, and on Thursday, and also on Thursday is the caucus for the Republican Party nomination in the Virgin Islands. The United States Virgin Islands, they don't have an electoral college vote in the presidential election, but the Republican Party does participate in the nomination process.
Cool.
And
so you're down there.
Well, I had to choose between. It was either Iowa and 5 degrees below zero weather for the caucus. It was New Hampshire, where I think it got up to 20 degrees, or St. Thomas.
So you decided to rough it.
I opted for St. Thomas. I'm going to give you. So last night I attended a campaign event. Mm-hmm. It was for Nikki Haley. She's actually spent quite a bit of time
on the beach.
It wasn't on the beach. It was at a hotel. The problem is it was on a different island. It's not easy to hop around from island to island down here. So I attended via Zoom. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's not simple. It's not like you can just, hit the road and drive over. So I attended via Zoom. They had it set up because there's a lot of media in St. Thomas right now because this is where the Republican.
So you're sitting on your balcony. Sorry.
Again, let's get to the news here.
I'm having a little trouble with this segment.
Really bitter. Anyway, Nikki Haley, unfortunately, the media was allowed to attend but not participate because they didn't want it to be about, the questions that D.C. media types had. They wanted it to be about. So there were a lot of questions from the people who live in the U.S. Virgin Islands about statehood, about various issues that affect the people here in the Virgin Islands. And nobody bothered to say, hey, where do you stand on that Senate border bill? I'm in the Zoom call, and I'm raising my hand.
You're dying. You're screaming. Are you screaming at the screen?
Has she said anything about the Senate border bill? I don't think she has. So anyway, I wasn't able to add. But she gave an interesting. So I have not heard this pitch from Nikki Haley because I haven't really been paying a whole lot. I feel like maybe I'm wrong, and I don't want to get ahead of the news, but I feel like Donald Trump's going to be the nominee for the Republicans.
Yeah, good.
Right?
Good.
Am I?
Yeah.
Again, I'm not here to make predictions. I'm just reading.
No.
However, let me say, Nikki Haley has a plan. She has a path. She has a strategy. She wants to get as many delegates as she can so that she can go to the convention and make the case, listen, we can't put Trump up there. He's facing all these charges, and I'm the only one. She repeated over and over again that I can beat Joe Biden in the polls. Trump is not beating Joe Biden in the polls. I don't know what polls she's looking at. I'm looking at different polls right now. We just told you yesterday NBC News shows that Trump has got his biggest lead over Joe Biden in the national popular poll. And state by state, he's beating Joe Biden in every battleground state. But listen, they all quote their polls. Her case is that. Then she also said this, which I thought was this first time I've heard her say this on the campaign trail. She said, listen, the next president of the United States is going to be a woman. The question is it going to be me or is it going to be Kamala Harris? And she spent a lot of time basically saying, Joe ain't going to make it. Joe ain't going to, he's going to have to drop off.
And actually you could, when you were talking about this morning, I thought, oh gosh, here she comes with another one of her women do it best kind of,
Yes,
that kind of
yes.
silliness that she sometimes engages in.
Right.
That woke talk, which she tries to put kind of a spin on.
The
But
identity politics thing.
But that is really fascinating.
Well,
Because-
when it's pick your poison, which woman, me or Kamala Harris, because she spent more time on yesterday's event in St. Croix, Virgin Islands, talking about Kamala Harris than she
Yeah.
did about Joe Biden.
Well, and the suggestion there is like, and it's not. This isn't rude to say that. I mean, we are amazed that Biden is still in office right now.
Right.
We didn't think he'd be able to complete. And frankly, if you saw him speak yesterday, and the gobbledygook. I mean, it's no longer mashed potatoes. It's like cream of chicken soup is his brain. Okay, it's gotten even softer.
It's a little more viscous now.
Yes,
It's lost some of
and-
its volume. Yeah.
Yes,
It ain't
and
good.
and a lot of people think, well, he certainly is going to make it through a second term, and so she's almost sort of pivoting away from Trump and saying, yeah, you don't want Kamala.
Right,
And anyway, it's interesting.
And she talks about age a lot. She talks about and I think it's undermining Donald Trump's message. If you saw Donald Trump, we played you the audio. He had an interview with Maria Bartiromo yesterday. He was engaged. He was spot on. He was great.
Sitting up.
Things that Biden could never do. He did the same thing last night on Newsmax. I think he gave a 10-minute sit down, and he was every time I've interviewed President Trump, he has always had a grasp of the facts, grasp of the knowledge. You can throw any question at him. I asked him what's his favorite restaurant in D.C. because he had been here for 6 months, I think, for the first interview, and he was like right on it. He's able to talk about whatever you need to talk about. Biden can't do that. Biden also uses notes in all of his interviews. If you've noticed, he always has note cards. Trump never has note cards.
and
in
they
his
are
interviews.
they're actively trying to keep Biden out. Whereas Trump is like, give me the camera.
That's
come
right.
on, come
Let's
on,
go,
ask
let's
me
go.
questions. Yeah.
So for Nikki Haley to consistently say, "Well, Trump's just the American people don't want two old men who are have cognitive disorders or anything," it's really undermining Trump's position on that. But that said, this is her lane. Like I said, I don't agree with her lane. I don't think it's going to work, even if she does amass a ton of delegates and gets to the convention. If there is some kind of fight over Trump, she's still going to be outnumbered. There's no way she can cobble together 2/3 of the delegates there to vote her way. Even if they reject Trump as the nominee, they're not going to go her direction. All she'll achieve is getting rid of Trump, but she's not going to get it. So, listen, I think it's a failed plan. That said, back to the Virgin Islands, this is a very interesting caucus because for the first time, it's going to be a winner-take-all caucus. So she could get, there's 9 delegates at hand. She could actually, right now, and again, I think Trump's going to win, we've only had 2 states. And the current total is Trump has 33 delegates, Nikki Haley has 17 delegates. She could chop his lead in half just by winning the Virgin Islands.
Well, there you go.
Also, interesting thing about the Virgin Islands is they're using ranked vote, ranked choice voting. Yeah, which is what Virginia did during. I am open to the idea of ranked choice voting for primaries, for a party determining its nominee. That's what Virginia did to come up with Glenn Youngkin as the nominee. And I'm not necessarily opposed to. I hate it in the general election.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, this is the first time that a state or territory has used ranked choice voting to determine the winner of a primary process or a caucus process. So we'll see how that pans out as well. I don't know how powerful ranked choice voting is when you've only got 2 candidates left, because who are you ranking exactly?
Yeah.
But in a crowded field, actually, it makes sense. So
this
anyway,
is on
that's all the
Thursday,
dynamic
Larry?
down
This
here.
is on Thursday? This happens
Thursday.
on Thursday?
Thursday is the day, yes. And so I'll be attending various political and campaign functions on your behalf, and I'll give
With
you
flip-flops. With
on the
flip-flops
ground
on.
with. If it's a formal affair, flip-flops. Otherwise, you just go barefoot.
I am a little jealous, I'll admit it.
You shouldn't be. Everyone's asking about you.
Oh, sure.
Winsome Sears was just here. She just
I
addressed
saw that.
the Virgin Islands. This is we're putting the Virgin Islands Republican Party on the map here. Let's go.
WMAL, making sense of world events. Because those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
As we were just mentioning, Joe Biden has, what was it again? Clam chowder for brains?
I said cream of chicken soup.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden doesn't, and Donald Trump doesn't, clearly. Joe Biden has decided for the second year in a row to turn down the opportunity to speak to the American people at the largest television audience of the year, halftime at the Super Bowl. It has become a bit of a tradition that during halftime of the Super Bowl, the sitting president will give an interview to the lead anchor or one of the news personalities at the network that is broadcasting the game.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden now 2 years in a row has decided, because it would have been such a hard-hitting interview from Norah O'Donnell.
Well, I think the White House is actually claiming that the White House doesn't want to get political, that people are tired of politics, right? Think of that coming from Biden and the Biden administration, who take every opportunity to politicize and cheered the kneeling and the politicization of sports in this country for years. Yeah. Suddenly, they've had enough.
Last year, the Eagles were in the Super Bowl, and he and Jill claimed that they were huge Eagles fans. It was Eagles everywhere, Eagles media. She showed up at games. Everything was politicized. They address the Oscars audience. They politicize the Oscars. Of course, you're 100% right.
They have no problem.
No. It's because he can't sit for 15 minutes.
He has cream of chicken soup for brains.
That's right. Cream of chicken soup for brains. That's the reason. By the way, he could have, it's like, that tough questions from Norah O'Donnell. Okay, I actually like Norah. She's okay. Set Norah O'Donnell said, I bet you if the White House said to CBS, okay, we'll do the interview at halftime, but give us Gayle King.
100% they do it.
Give us Oprah's friend.
Yes, they do it. They'd absolutely do it.
Of course they would have done it. All right, Mr. President, I need to ask you about Hunter Biden and the scandal swirling around him. How much does it pain you to see your son going through this?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what the question would be.
And also, let's think about where we are in this country. We've had our military men and women die overseas. We have an invasion happening over the southern border. We have hundreds of thousands of people dying from fentanyl. We have risks all over the country, high crime. Maybe this is the time to go on TV and reassure the American people and have a moment in an all-American sport and maybe not talk about politics. Maybe say, look, we're all in this together. And he gives up the opportunity.
Whatever he wanted to do. He could have spun it however he wanted to if he didn't have cream of chicken soup for brains.
Right.
And let's just be clear. One other thing here. It's an election year. He has the opportunity to be in front of the largest television audience of the year. And he declined it.
They are hiding him.
They're terrified. Absolutely. Now, here's the best part. Donald Trump took to Truth Social yesterday. And said, Crooked Joe Biden has just announced that he will not be doing the big Super Bowl interview. A great decision. He can't put two sentences together. I would be happy to replace him. Would be ratings gold. He's not wrong, by the way. No, and I don't quite understand the journalistic decision. The ball's in CBS News' court here. How can they refuse this? What is the journalistic value or principle at play here?
We know exactly what they'll do. They'll say
even the fig leaf.
We know exactly what they say. They'll say this is CBS, so they'll say, "Oh, this is a position usually like we don't want to get into, campaign mode here, and this is usually, set aside just for the elected president." So they'll figure out a way out of it. But this would be great.
It would be great for the American people. It would be great for people to see. And by the way, it would also, not to get mercenary about this, but we are in a business here as well as journalists. It would be ratings gold, as Donald Trump said. Are you kidding me? That more people will tune in for that interview than will watch the game.
Well, Taylor Swift, I don't know. No, you're right. I think you're right.
Again, the game, not the blonde up in the booth. Oh, here we go. All right. Anyway. We'll see what CBS says. I think CBS should do it. Actually, you know what would be brilliant?
What?
If CBS News declines, Fox News or Newsmax they should counter-program during the Super Bowl.
And that's very
and
style.
Time it out.
Yep.
Time it out. And let Fox News should say, you know what? CBS News declined. We will interview Donald Trump during the halftime. So just flip over. That would be phenomenal.
And that's more on his brand.
Yeah. It's 6:22. Well, we woke up to some sad news today. Toby Keith, country star Toby Keith, has passed away. It happened overnight, age of 62. He had been diagnosed with stomach cancer, obviously quite acute. Statement that was posted to the website and social media accounts very early this morning said Toby Keith passed away peacefully last night on February 5th, surrounded by his family. He fought his fight with grace and courage. Please respect the privacy of his family at this time. He did reveal in June of 22 that he had been diagnosed with stomach cancer, and he has a lot of hits. In fact, how about Cut 23, which I think is probably the one that many of our listeners know very well. Unabashedly pro-American, unabashedly patriotic. His songs often centered around patriotism, what it is to be an American, and often on the American soldier. In fact, one of his songs is called American Soldier. I can also tell you he is a beloved Oklahoman. As you know, Meredith's family is from Oklahoma, and there's a town near where she lives where he's from. In fact, there's a water tower. You know, the Midwest has a lot of water towers in their towns, and painted on the water tower is birthplace and hometown of Toby Keith. He spent most of his time in Oklahoma, spent a lot of money helping the community there, and just a great guy and a great American and a great artist, and we will miss him. Rest in peace, Toby Keith. It's 6:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:37 now on O'Connor and Company. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. How are you this morning, Julie? I haven't even asked how you're doing. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
You have such a happy-go-lucky, bubbly, cheerful demeanor with everyone except me. So it's good to check in now and again. Coming up later in the program at 7:05, Laura Hanford, a Virginia mom who's championing Sage's Law. We'll get into the details of that one as it's facing a vote in Richmond. 7:35, Mark Pauletta on Clarence Thomas being virtually ignored by Black History Month curricula. At 8:05, Tom Homan on the border. And at 8:35, our pal Governor Scott Walker. That's a huge lineup already, but then add to it the effervescent queen of Montgomery County, Bethany Mandel, and you've got yourself a show. Good morning, Bethany. How's the tiara fitting today?
Good morning, Larry and Julie. Have you considered that she's not effervescent and joyful? Because maybe you're kind of rude to her, and maybe you should shape up.
Did you tell her to say that? I am so. You know what? I'm not going to.
No one can tell Bethany what to say.
Bethany has sat in that chair before. She knows how supportive I am.
You are amazing, and I love you.
I love you too. All right, Bethany. Serious stuff here. We were seeing a meltdown of the Montgomery County Public Schools, and so we thought, hey, let's check in with Bethany on that. Of course, she is the co-author of the best-selling book "Stolen Youth: How Radicals Are Erasing Innocence and Indoctrinating a Generation." And we're now seeing the Montgomery County Superintendent stepping down under pressure. Monifa McKnight. She tried to fight this, but it wasn't going to happen. First of all, give us some more background here in terms of why she had lost the confidence of the school board, because it sounds a whole lot like what happened in Loudoun County a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, how long do I have? Not long enough. The TLDR is there have been really serious accusations, not only of abuse within the Montgomery County school system, but also, I think, equally troubling, that people within her administration were made aware of it and, at best ignored it. And that's the at best scenario. But then there's the reporting that just came out about how much the school district is spending on lawsuits to fight parents.
Yeah.
And in the course of the last year, so far they've spent almost $500,000 fighting Montgomery County parents who said, I don't want my kid to be forced to read Pride Puppy in kindergarten. And the county has spent over $400,000 to say, well, we think it's necessary as part of their education.
Bethany, I saw that they're going to name a guy named Brian Hull, He's currently the district's chief operating officer. He's going to be serving as acting superintendent. And I love his statement. He said, "We must rebuild trust, begin to heal, and ensure that our school system is equipped to serve the students, staff, and families who make up our great community." He could start, if he really wants to rebuild trust, he could start by not suing parents. Isn't that true? I mean, don't you find it kind of rich that he's talking about this while that district that he is now going to be in charge of is suing parents?
Yeah, I mean, it's wild to me that they have decided to die on this hill. That for all of the money that they spend, the budget of Montgomery County Public Schools is $3.3 billion with a B. God. And at the same time that they're spending over $400,000 on this one thing, not including the severance package that we're giving to the outgoing superintendent, the money that are our taxpayer dollars that they're lighting on fire could be used to, I don't know, have tutoring that they've discontinued in our county. Yeah. It really shows the priorities of those in charge, and they want to continue with this like cronyism that has sort of marked the last decades in this county, and it's really starting to impact the bottom line of kids' safety and test scores and excellence, and that seems to be the lowest thing on their priority list.
Well, and the school board, let's face it, they're going to replace Monica McKnight with another version of Monica McKnight. This school board does that. There's not one person in that body who raises their hand and says, "Hey guys, maybe there's another way to look at things." It's very frustrating for anybody watching the process in the Montgomery County School Board. And let's face it, they've spent so much time and energy with all of these woke curricula ideas. You know, we need to teach people about anti-racism and be allies to LGBTQ and stop with the bullying and stop with the sexual. And meanwhile, this superintendent needs to step down because of all of the horrific occurrences of sexual harassment and bullying and homophobia. So they're not teaching our kids to read and write or about basic science skills. They're teaching them how to be good woke citizens, and they're even failing at that. Right. Bethany.
Yep. No, that's exactly right. I mean, what's wild is they have all these anti-bullying programs, but over the course of these opt-out fights over the course of the last year, parents were merely asking for the right to pull their own child out. They weren't asking for the curriculum to change. They were just saying, "I want to opt my own child out of Pride Puppy." At a Board of Education meeting, when a child gave testimony so bravely, members of the Board of Education mocked that child from the dais in public. The bullying starts at the top, and it happens at these Montgomery County Board of Education meetings. And you're right, there is no one who sits there who raises their hands and says, maybe it's time to change the course of this ship because we are deeply, deeply off course.
Which baby is that, by the way? I'm really excited. I love hearing the sound of a baby. Is this the newest one?
It's so funny because I was nervous about oversleeping. I've been awake for 2.5 hours. I'm ready to go. I could start co-hosting again because I don't sleep anyway.
Honestly, you should come into studio. Bring the baby. It'll be great. I'll take the rest of the day off. Bethany Mandel, always great to talk with you. And by the way, I haven't even we've exchanged messages over the last. I haven't congratulated you on your husband's new job. By the way,
thank you.
Congratulations.
Podcast.
Yeah,
is what everyone should listen to at the end of this show.
Okay, let's not. Fine.
No, at 9 a.m. when it's over.
That's right. Or as you're going to sleep. Either way, congratulations to Seth. He's doing a great job there. And you've heard about the Twitter files, right? And the fact that the federal government actually worked with social media companies to censor the news and to squash stories and to protect the regime. Now we're learning about the Amazon files. This is a fascinating story. Emails obtained by Jim Jordan and the Judiciary Committee shows that Amazon acquiesced to White House pressure to censor books that they deemed to be anti-vax. There are smoking gun emails, including one that says flat out from the folks at Amazon, is the White House asking us to ban books? And it appears the answer was yes.
Oh, but wait a minute. I thought Jill said every single book ever published, ever since the creation of books should be in a library. Which
we shouldn't be banning books. We shouldn't be
Ever.
banning books at all. Yeah.
Ever.
No, that's only about books that make little girls and little boys want to mutilate their bodies.
Yes. Does she know her husband's banning books?
Andrew Slavitt, senior advisor to the White House's COVID-19 response team, asked, who can we talk to about the high levels of propaganda and misinformation and disinformation on Amazon? And again, this is how this was an email that they sent to the higher ups at Amazon. This is how they do it. I mean, anybody who thinks, oh my gosh, look at all this propaganda on Amazon, let's blame Amazon. They're a store. They're selling books.
Yeah.
If you don't like the message of one of the books, you take it up with the publisher of the book or with the author of the book. But this is how they exert their pressure and and turn the screws. They go to Amazon, who, by the way, Jeff Bezos has many deals and contracts with the federal government and with the military, because not only does he sell books, but he creates the back end for a lot of different systems to operate on the internet. And that's where the money is. So the White House calls and says, hate for something to happen to those military contracts. You might want to ban these books. And
That's
so
right.
they did.
They did.
Adamson staff noted, reading from Tyler O'Neill over at Heritage Foundation, taking any direct action against COVID-19 vaccine skeptical books would be too visible, given the firestorm Amazon was already facing for removing the book When Harry Became Sally. That's a book that questions transgender issues. So they did. What they did was they changed the algorithm so books wouldn't show up on searches, it appears.
Just astonishing.
That's what it looks like.
And as usual, I'm sure no one will pay a price for this, as we've seen throughout the COVID episode, the school closures. It's good to know this, and it's good to know they are capable of this, but I doubt anyone will pay a price, which is very frustrating.
Jim Jordan's looking at it, and I don't know what kind of price you can pay. Again, it takes executive action through the Justice Department actually do something. This is a violation of American civil rights, but ultimately the company went along with it. That's the real problem. Know who Amazon is. They're, by the way, also the publishers of the Washington Post. Thank you very much. Amazon employee moved to, quoting now, widen the searchlight flag for COVID-19 CDC websites to redirect so that it comes to the top of the page for more search keys. So if you're searching for COVID-19 vaccine skeptical or just information, what do I need to know about this vaccine before I inject it into my body, your first result would be the CDC.
I do love how I do love, according to Tyler O'Neill, he's looking at these emails. They do sort of, the White House officials do sort of wrap it in virtue by saying, who can we talk to about the high levels of propaganda and misinformation and disinformation on Amazon? So there it's saying, this is driving people to make the wrong decision. So who can we talk to about controlling the
about protecting
there?
People's lives.
That's right.
Lest they not get the vaccine that we demand they get.
Yes.
Lest they dangerously read a book.
Yes, make their
that
own
we don't
decisions.
approve of. This is the government deciding what books are allowed and what books aren't allowed. And these are the ones who will say that you, objecting to a child getting a book that shows individuals, engaging in oral sex, you're the book banner.
Yeah, you're the problem.
It's 6:50.